Hi, it's Mary Schiller. I wanted to jump on a quick live stream here to follow up on the one that I did yesterday that asked you to just ignore any thoughts you had about limitation. And I want to tell you that I heard from a couple of people who are trying this experiment, and it's been pretty eye-opening for them. I know for myself that when I just kind of start to become aware of how much of that kind of thinking I'm listening to, it can be a little bit shocking. And I want to tell you a story about that that just happened this morning. So I was writing out a list of different things that I wanted to do with my business this year. And after I wrote out the list, I had one of those sort of aha moments, because what I saw on that list was a lot of limited thinking. And I laughed because basically what most of the things were, not everything, but most of the things on that list were things that I had already done. And I wanted to maybe just expand on them, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, except that I noticed that I was really just kind of regurgitating old ideas of things that had maybe been easy for me to do in the past, or things that I knew that I was capable of doing. And so once I had written that list, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to look at that list. I want some new ideas to come in here. I want to see something from a fresh perspective. So I'm just going to set that list aside, that sort of comfortable, familiar list of ideas about things that I could do in my business, and just see what else I can see, and really just open it up to what my creative partner, Sarah Murrah, and I like to call the creative space, because that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about noticing where we actually are, that we are in a 360-degree space, and it's not just 360 degrees in one direction, it's 360 degrees in every direction of possibilities and opportunities. And if we continue, sorry, my cat is crying in the background again. If we can start to just ignore any thoughts that we have about limitation, those new opportunities and new ideas start to come more into the foreground. I can give you an example of this too from something else that's happening for me right now. So today is Monday, February 27th, and on March 7th, I will begin my move to France. My husband and I are moving to Paris, and we will be leaving where we're living right now on the 7th to drive to Los Angeles to get to the airport for a flight the next day, which is an overnight, so we'll eventually get into Paris on March 9th. And this was a really interesting decision, because it's something that we have wanted to do. We've wanted to live in Paris since we went there on our honeymoon almost 20 years ago. And last year, at about this time, a little bit earlier, he and I were both having some financial difficulties. I won't bore you with all the details, but job loss, loss of savings because of some unexpected things that came up, and just a confluence of events that happened. And it was really interesting because at that time, I remember having some thinking about, what I needed to do to get out of this predicament that we were in. And I remember hearing sort of the old flow of thinking, like, okay, well, I could go get another job. I could go do this. I could go do that. And none of it was new ideas. None of it was fresh. None of it sounded like it was going to be any fun. And I really made a conscious decision at that moment to not listen to those kind of old ideas that felt really small to me. They felt just stale, and I didn't want to hear them anymore. So I made this kind of decision to just set them off to the side and see what else would come to me. And it was really amazing because at that time, two ideas came to me. One was that maybe it was time to just make this move overseas. You know, maybe the circumstances didn't look the best, but in some respects, the time just seemed right. So that was a decision we made together. We said, okay, it's time to go. Don't know how long it'll take to get us over there, but it's time to go. So that was a new idea because that had actually not occurred to me in a concrete way before. It had always seemed sort of like a pipe dream out here somewhere. And suddenly it just came rushing into the foreground and seemed like the thing to do. So that was one decision. And the other decision was I was just going to work for myself. And I was going to see what happened if I just put one foot in front of the other and did the things that I wanted to do, that I was inspired to do. And so those two ideas were really new and really exciting. And they appeared when I just let all that limited thinking just kind of float on past, and I didn't really let it land anywhere. So I've seen for myself just in this past year what a big difference it can make when I personally, you know, kind of put those limited thoughts to the side when they show up. And this is the difference. And this is a big, big difference. So if you're watching this live or on the replay, I see somebody's here, but I can't tell who it is. This is a major thing. So I was of the understanding before I came across the 3 principles that I talk about and write about and coach people in, I was of the camp that said that if I had limiting beliefs, I had to figure out where they came from. I had to then sort of take them apart, deconstruct all these limiting beliefs, and then I was supposed to kind of put them back together into some kind of new world order in my mind. You know, I needed to change my mindset and I had to do all these things. So I tried all of that. I really did. I went through a really popular program related to limiting beliefs, and I tried to trace back where they popped up in my childhood, and I tried to, you know, sort of rewrite them into a new script and all of these crazy things. And you know what? It just didn't work. And I thought that it was me. I thought I was doing it wrong. You know, there must be hundreds, if not thousands, of books and programs and well-meaning coaches out there who are trying to change people's mindsets and give them a more positive outlook so that they can do the things that they want to do in life. But I'm going to make a bold statement here and say that they're all wrong. They're well-meaning and lovely and truly trying to help, but they're looking at this from the wrong side. And to me, and to a lot of other people who are also in this conversation about the principles, it's so much simpler than that. It's simply a matter of seeing that we have thinking. Sometimes that thinking tells us that we can't or shouldn't or won't do something, and we don't have to listen. I've pretty much concluded that maybe 99% of the thoughts that run through my head are old, stale, and false. And that the only ones that seem really worth paying attention to are the new ones and the ones that bring with them a nice feeling. You know, all the rest just seem like they are there to give me an experience of being in this human form. They give me the range of emotions and all of those beautiful feelings that we have. But other than that, you know, that seems to be the extent of what they do. And I'm not knocking that because I'm grateful to be having this human being experience. But in terms of telling me truth about myself, those thoughts don't seem to be doing that. So I would just love for you to, sometimes I say to people to kind of look past those limiting thoughts that you hear and kind of see what's on the other side, because if you can just even look past them a little bit, you'll see there's just a wide open, Wyoming sized or universe sized vista waiting for you to step into and see where you actually are. Because as I said in the previous video, I think, we are not contained in these bodies. That's not where we are. We can look everywhere all at once. It's all available to us. And it's so easy to do that because it's how we're made. It's how we're designed. And the way it seems to me, the easiest way to do that is to recognize our thinking for what it is, that it's sort of like a substance that gives us this whole experience we're having as humans. But it is not truth. Hey, Sarah, how are you? It isn't telling us who we are. It isn't telling us any key information about, whether we're making the right move or the wrong move. It isn't designed for that. So we are allowed to look beyond it to see what else there is available to us. So I would love for you to continue this experiment if you haven't tried it yet for just 24 hours. Anytime you have any thinking that sounds like a limitation, just ignore it. It can be there kind of chatting in your ear and saying whatever it's going to say. It's not harmful. It's not going to do anything to you, but just kind of ignore it and see what happens. I know for myself, when I started to do this, I was pretty shocked at how often I was listening to that. And I still am sometimes. So it can be pretty fun to just kind of pay attention to this for a day and see what you notice. So I'd love to hear what happens for you. Feel free to post a comment here or on my page, or for friends on Facebook, send me a message. And you can also email me at mary@maryschiller.com. I will be back online hopefully tomorrow to see what's up. So I'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.